Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Dinh, and I work at Columbia University's Zuckerman Neuroscience Institute, creating public programming that involves neuroscience and community. I'm so excited to moderate tonight's program, BrainFood. BrainFood is supported by the Center for Science and Society here at Columbia and is made possible through our partners, Chef J.J. Johnson and his team at FIELDTRIP, Harlem Grown, Mandela Cafe, and Riverside Church. Tonight, we'll be having a short conversation on food and neuroscience and how these fields interact, followed by a cooking demonstration ending with a Q&A with the chef and scientist. As the program runs, we encourage you to leave questions on our YouTube page for the question and answer portion at the end of the program. So let's get started. I'd like to welcome our chef and our scientist tonight, Chef J.J. Johnson and Dr. Melissa Lee. Chef J.J. Johnson is an award-winning chef, founder, TV personality, and author. He lives and operates out of Harlem. Chef Johnson has won the James Beard Award for Best Author and nominations for Best Chef and Rising Star NYC, Forbes and Zagat 30 Under 30. He is founder of FIELDTRIP, which is a quick, casual rice bowl shop that he started right here in Harlem. Hi.
Hey.
Nice to have you tonight. And our neuroscientist participant is Dr. Melissa Lee, neuroscientist at Columbia's Zuckerman Institute, where her research focuses on how the non-neuronal cells of the brain contribute to brain development. Hey, so nice to have you guys. It's so funny. That was a mouthful of awards for both parties. So we're just really lucky to have.
You crushed it. You made me feel like a superstar. So thank you.
I'm so glad. Well, tonight we have a really, hopefully, superstar studded event. Welcome again, and thank you for being here. To start our conversation tonight, I'd just love to hear about what got you both interested in your own fields. Chef Johnson, what made you want to become a chef?
You know, every time somebody asks me that question, I go back and think, like, when did I really want to get started? It was really in my grandma's kitchen. She made cooking really fun. It was robust. It was loud. It was vibrant. And as a kid, I would gravitate to her kitchen. I would step on a step stool. She would give me onions and celery and carrots to peel, or I thought I was peeling them. But I was in it. I was involved with the family. And as I got older, and I don't mean like really like in teenage years, at 7, 8 years old, I said I wanted to be a chef to my family. I saw a commercial, and I've been cooking ever since. I'm very thankful. I've cooked every family member's dinner for their birthdays when I was a kid, burning a lot of food. But for me, food has always brought people together. It's the best moments of our life, and I'm just happy to be a part of that.
Wow, that was so intimate. Melissa, do you have a similar story about becoming a scientist?
Not something so personal. I think this is actually also a really hard question for me, because I think the honest answer is that I'm just a really big nerd and I like knowing things, and science is, as far as I can tell at least, our best way of knowing things. So as a scientist, I use the scientific method. And what that means is that I'll come across a question that I find interesting or think is useful for us to know the answer to. I will sit down, I'll look at all of the available evidence that I can find. I'll try to be as unbiased as possible, and I'll try to come up with my best guess or hypothesis about what might actually be going on. And then I get to design experiments and perform experiments to test this hypothesis that I've come up with. And at the end, if I've done it correctly, I will have more information. And as someone who likes knowing information, that feels really good. But I think the irony there is that one of the first things you learn when you're doing science is that actually when you answer a question, you get what you get is more questions. If you do science correctly, then you actually end up with more questions. But they're better and smarter questions than when you started off with, and the predictions that you make, the hypotheses you make, the guesses you make are better and smarter than before, and that feels really good too.
Thanks for that response, both of you. It's really interesting. I'm hearing this and I feel like both cooking and science are kind of iterative processes. I know for me, though, I'm like, maybe one of them shouldn't result in something that you should eat.
Yeah, please don't eat
So,
anything you make in the lab.
yeah. But yeah, that kind of, I guess, connection between of them got me thinking, Chef Johnson, what interests you about science then? Do you have any questions about Melissa's field? And then we'll go into Melissa, if you have any interests about food, we'd love to hear about that too.
Well, I'm always interested in science. As my dog is beneath me, every time I come in the kitchen, she thinks I'm making steak or lamb that's going to drop on the floor for her. So you might hear her begging for a little bit here. No, science, I think right now, let's just be really honest, right? Right now in the world, science matters, right? And we can't turn, like, everybody's interested in science some way, somehow, right? One of our favorite one of your favorite classes as a sixth grader with is science, right? You make things blow up, you learn about things, and then you grow from there because, as Melissa was saying, you start to think about things in different ways. And I think food is very similar. I sear a piece of meat at this blazing hot degree in a cast iron pan, and it looks like this. There's a science behind that. How much oil did I put in the pan? Did I put salt or didn't I put salt, right? I'll talk about that when cooking rice, when to add salt, when not to add salt, right? There's a science, there's a food science behind that. And when you learn about it or you do something right or you think it's right, it makes you start to think more. So I'm constantly thinking about science. I think about science and how does it react? Like, how does food react to people? Like a mouthfeel and taste and memory. But also just I'm super into science right now because I want people to be healthy more than ever. So I'm going to get Melissa's number after this. And I'm going to be texting her all the time on the side.
Yeah,
what about this? And what about this? So we're going to become like best friends.
And I'll direct all my cooking questions to you.
Perfect. Works for me.
And I'll just eat and participate in all of the benefits. But Melissa, what were you going to say something about your interest in food too?
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm interested in food in the way that a lot of people are, in that I like eating it. It tastes good. It brings me a lot of enjoyment. But I also find that food is very personal for me. I grew up in Tennessee, and my family is from Taiwan, and there aren't a whole lot of Taiwanese people in Tennessee. And so growing up, the food that my mom made for us at home was one of the few connections I had to my culture, to my family's culture, in a really positive way. And it's funny because now that I'm in New York City and I've been here for, I think, 8 years, I feel the same way about Southern food. So food has always just had these really positive emotions and memories associated with them. And as you were just saying, Chef Johnson, a lot of these ways that I think about food, I've realized as I've developed as a scientist and as a neuroscientist that these things like memories and emotions that I have associated with food are actually neuroscience concepts. These are things that are processed in the brain. And like you just said, doing things in a laboratory is a lot like cooking. So in both of these.
Did your mom use Southern ingredients? I'm very interested now. Did your mom use Southern ingredients in Taiwanese ways?
Well, I think sometimes she had to be quite resourceful. A lot of we had friends with gardens. She would garden herself. There weren't a ton. You had to take a trip to get the ingredients otherwise. So she was quite creative with that. And we sometimes had meals that I thought were quote unquote Southern or quote unquote American that ended up not. I realized that these were mishmashes. I was like, oh, you guys weren't eating them this way.
That's the greatest part about childhood, though, how food where you grow up could be one thing, but has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah. And I love what you were saying about using science in the kitchen, because I really think I mostly have done science, but I started cooking a lot more in the past year or two. And one of the first things I realized, I was like, oh, this is just like doing an experiment in the lab. I'm putting together different amounts of different ingredients and mixing them together. There's a chemical reaction sometimes. And, as Lisa said, you should eat it probably in the kitchen and probably not in the lab. But yeah, is a cool, because I thought of it as, oh, if I can do experiments and follow this experimental protocol, I can also be a cook and follow this recipe. And I think that's true the other way around. If you can cook, you can be a scientist.
Yeah,
I love
totally. Yeah, well, I was just, just listening to this makes me think of how memory is such an important feature of cooking. Food and memory is a concept that we wanted to explore together. So, Melissa, you said that memory is a brain process. Could you simplify that or elaborate on what that means?
Yeah, so we form and store memories using our brains. So our brains are broken up into different parts that have different specializations. So there isn't just one part of the brain that's specialized in memory. There are actually quite a number of different parts of the brains that are specialized for different types of memories. But one part of the brain that's specialized in the type of memory that we've been talking about here, which is episodic memory. That's a type of memory we have when we are retelling a story that's happened to us in the past. It's right down in the middle of our brains. There's a little bit on both sides. It's kind of shaped like a seahorse. It's called the hippocampus. And there's actually some evidence that how strong our memory of a food might influence how much we like that food. And that's thought to involve this region. And this is still actually a really burgeoning field of neuroscience. People are just starting to look into this. And so there's a lot of open questions here too.
I love this because I went to Ghana in 2011. I went there to cook American themed dinners, not really knowing, being just very ignorant, didn't know much about West African culture, right? Because I only knew of it through my parents, but nobody's teaching you that in school, right?
Yeah.
And I go there, and in moments of cooking there, I would get these memories of that smell reminds me of something, or that taste. I know this.
Yeah.
How is this possible?
Yeah.
And then, doing my own research or being a scientist, I started to realize that, I was a kid of the African diaspora, and these flavors stemmed from here and just moved across the Atlantic to these regions where my family was from. But now I'm like, hold on, maybe it was this part of my brain, talking to me.
Yeah.
Food as memory has been very big for me in my career over the last 10 years.
Yeah. I love that you said that thing about smell, because the smell system actually has really strong connections to the part of the brain that's involved in memory, and that is thought to be part of the reason that there is this really close, the smell memory connection is really strong. It's more so than, say, vision or hearing. So I love that you said that.
And cooking you're really using all 5 of your senses when you cook.
Yeah.
It's not just about taste. I think smell is one of the most important parts for me, or what I think makes me very more advanced than others, because I can smell things and it makes my brain go wild, or it's my sense of remembrance. Hold on, you put too much vinegar in there because it wasn't this vinegary before I even taste it. So I use smell a lot, and I also use hearing a lot.
Yeah, I was so curious about that. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so when you're cooking, you step away in your kitchen and you're cooking, you should then put on your listening cooking skills to listen for snap, crackle, pop in your oven, on top of the stove, if the water's boiling.
Yeah, that
right?
kettle sound.
That kettle sound, right? Those moments help you have a new sensory versus just seeing or tasting, right? Smelling the burntness or the caramelization in the caramel in the pan, it's ready. So I'm always, depending on what I'm doing, where I am, in tuning my other sensory that also relates to cooking. And as I'm just sitting here with you, it's it's so much brain power that it's unreal. But I don't just think that cooking is all about taste and seeing. Get your nose going, get your ears going. That will help you through a lot of the process of cooking.
I love that.
I feel like we are truly speaking with a talented chef here, because I'm when I'm in the kitchen, I'm I need to focus, and I'm looking and trying to do so many things at once. I'm trying not to use all of my senses. I'm trying to minimize, but
I mean,
Thank you
think
for
about it.
that.
You put music on in the kitchen when you cook, right? It brings you to like this super happy place. You're vibing out, right?
Yeah.
But also that then goes into the food that you cook as well. So it might not just be in sensory of listening to snap, crackle, pop, or smelling burntness or caramelization. You can help your body. I'm sure Melissa will talk about this better than me, but you can help your body get to this happy place through music, which then will bleed out into your food.
Oh, that's so good. Wait, so what do you cook to?
You know, it's all about the mood. Like I'll play 90s hip hop and R&B. I might go to John Legend, maybe a little Baby or Drake right now. I don't listen to Kanye. I'm sorry, but like it just or maybe I'll throw in some Billie Holiday if I'm in that mood. So, I think based on like for me when I get into like the creative sense, I need music to get me there, right? I'm looking for some softness in a dish. I'm listening to jazz. I'm looking for some more oomph in a dish. I'm listening to trap music. So I use music to bring me to places to get the vibe right.
Yeah. Melissa, do you have any kind of neuroscientific insight to add to that? And I know we talked about some senses. So if you want to provide some like more mechanistic insight into our senses as we cook as well.
Yeah, well, as you were just saying, Chef JJ, taste really isn't just the mouth. So so this is the cool thing about science is that we know things for a while and then all of a sudden we know something additional and what we knew before was wrong. So what we thought for a while that there were 5 types of tastes that we could sense in our mouth. So we have our taste buds on our tongues, right? They're all of our tongues. Each of our taste buds has somewhere between 50 to 100 taste receptor cells. And these are the cells that will detect if something is salty, if it's sweet, or if it's savory or sour or bitter. But now people are thinking that there might actually be another sense and that is related to fat somehow. We're still working on that.
To fat or to umami?
So umami is safe. We know about umami. We've nailed out umami, but we're still trying to figure out this last one. And probably we'll find more later. But so there are these 5 or 6 tastes that are like kind of hardwired into our taste buds, but our noses, the way we smell there's actually thousands of different smell receptors. And so it really is a combination of these two. Also, things like texture, feeling, even the way you see something, these all have effects on how we taste food. But
this is good knowing this from you because these are the things I do. So I've been doing things right in my life. So I feel better about myself now.
You're the expert. So with the taste though, what happens is that for these basic senses, as you're chewing, you're breaking down the food. There are molecules that are coming out from the food, and these taste bud cells will respond to that, and they'll send signals to the brain. And once the brain processes this food, this flavor, this is when you perceive something as salty or savory or umami, and that is happening really quickly on the order of 100 milliseconds. But it's not until it gets to the brain that you actually are like, oh, this is salty.
So, can I go back to your fat thing because this has me really intrigued. So, like sometimes I cook a dish and I'm like, oh my god, it needs more fat. I can taste it needs more. Like, and when I say more fat, like it needs more olive oil, or that dish needs fat, so it needs olive oil, or it needs butter, or it needs avocado, right?
Yeah.
It needs some type of fattiness for flavor. I never looked at that as a taste bud, though. I looked at that as like a mouthfeel sensory.
Yeah, it's still something. Sorry, it's still something that's kind of, as I said, we're still evolving our understanding of this, so we still have a lot of questions ourselves as scientists. But yeah, there is some evidence that we have kind of one of the reason that babies really like sweet things, animals really like sweet things. It's just this basic way that organisms are out there searching for calories and making sure that you get the energy. And so we have this sort of innate preference, we think, for things that are higher in calorie because it provides energy. And historically, evolutionarily, it's been a good source of energy.
Oh
you went really deep. You went deeper than I thought.
We go deep here, yeah. I am so hungry right now. I know we have a cooking portion, but I wonder, Melissa, did you have any other kind of nutrition insight you wanted to share just with our listeners? We want to do, Chef Johnson, we love hearing you speak about your music, but we do want to hear just if there's any type of science to our listeners that might be good for, nutrition-based insight.
Yeah. So as I just said, the most basic thing about food is it's how we get our energy. A calorie is a measure of energy, and our brains use and need a lot of energy. So we get all sorts of vitamins and minerals from our food, but the three main things, the three macronutrients are proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. So if I just start with proteins, a protein is a molecule in the body that does things. I know that's really vague, but that's really what a protein is. It just is a thing that does things. So I'll give you an example. I just talked about taste for a second. So I told you that there are these cells in your taste buds that respond to tastes or flavors. And the proteins are what is inside these cells, and on these cells that react to the flavor. They are what is bringing what helps make the signal from the cell to the brain. And they are what are on your brain cells that are receiving these signals that helps the brain to react. So they are just the things that do things. That's really the best definition I can come up with. But proteins are made up of 20 different amino acids. These are the building blocks. They're called amino acids. And when we eat proteins, our body breaks down the protein that we eat into these amino acid building block components. And then it kind of takes these blocks and rebuilds them to make these things that we use for basically everything. And some of these amino acids can make up or even themselves be messengers or neurotransmitters in the brain. So that's protein. And then fat, as we just mentioned, fat has kind of a bad reputation, but actually we need it to survive. Every single one of your cells in your body is contained by this kind of flexible wall, the cell membrane that's made up of fat. And our brains are actually mostly fat. So about 60% of our brains are fat. And some of the fats in our body, in our brains, can be kind of self-made in the body through other parts. But there are also some fats in your brain that have to come from food that can't come from anywhere else. And fats like omega-3s are really important for this. And so I took a peek at the recipe you're sharing with us, Chef JJ, and I saw that there are avocados, olive oil, cashews. These are all great sources of omega-3s, which your brain needs and which you can't get anywhere but food. And then
only at Field Trip.
No, I think that's an important fact, right? People don't realize that food cures, food is good. Like some people think you have to take vitamins, but I think that's these are things in our community, right?
Yeah.
All those ingredients you just mentioned, you can get at any grocery store bodega to help your brain.
Yeah. And the only other, the last category is carbohydrates, which I noticed you also have some good carbohydrates in the recipe here. So carbohydrates are our brains and our body's main energy source. So our brains are actually quite greedy when it comes to energy. Our brains are only about 2 to 3% of our bodies by mass, but they use about 20% of our energy when our bodies are at rest. So they're really taking up that energy, and the energy that we get from our food actually then disproportionately powers our brain. So different types of carbohydrates are more or less effective in providing us good sustained energy for our bodies and for our brains. So carbohydrates that are more complicated for the body to process are actually better for this. So carbs and energy simple for the body, those that we might find in things like
my avocado toast. Yeah, it's got the carbs, it's got the fats. This is perfect.
Is that why you just see it everywhere because it's a millennial thing? Because we know it's good for us?
Oh, I don't know that it's about it being good for us.
I saw somebody today eat avocado. They didn't want cream cheese on their bagel, so they got avocado smeared on their bagel which I've never done before, and it looks so good. It was like avocado toast, but a new way of not killing yourself with cream cheese.
Yeah, maybe the fat tasting cells in your body really like it.
Okay, well, this is all very interesting, but again, I've gotten so hungry during our conversation. So I think we should pivot now to the cooking demonstration. We're going to say goodbye to Melissa for now, but she'll come back at the end
Yeah.
for the Q&A, and we'll let Chef Johnson take it away from here. So, bye, Melissa.
Thank you very much. That was amazing. Just like the facts there to make you a better person, to eat better, be stronger in the brain. I'm Chef JJ, chef and founder of Field Trip. Right here in Harlem is our first location. We have 2 other locations, one in Rockefeller Center, one in Long Island City, but our OG location is between 115th and 116th and Malcolm X Boulevard. So if you're in Harlem, come on down. Everything's affordable. Everybody can eat there. It's a community-driven restaurant. That's what I call it. Today, I wanted to, introduce you to something you probably walk by in the supermarket that you look at and say, I don't know what to do with it. And that's black rice. Black rice here, forbidden black rice from the Lotus family, the Lotus company, who sources rice directly from farmers. This rice is really good for you. And just a little backstory about black rice is black rice came from Chinese emperors. It was called Tribune black rice, Tribune China black rice. And if you were an emperor, people knew you were an emperor if you had black rice. So black rice was just as big as gold. It told people about who you were. And then forbidden black rice came on the market because people wanted to be emperors and they were dyeing rice and doing all types of things to rice, to give you a little bit of history on the black rice. But black rice grows black, cultivates black, milled black, cooked black. It doesn't change color, right? That's what makes it great. Nobody can do anything to it. A lot of rice we eat in our community or in the world here in America, our rice is bleached, it's enriched, it's parboiled, and we know it not to be good for us because of those reasons. So I want everybody to switch over to black rice now. I want you to get it in your diet. It has amino acids, it has proteins. Everything we talked about is there. It's good for you. It can help you with your diabetes if you know somebody is diabetic. But it is good rice. Now, when you eat it, it's going to be a little chewier. It's going to be firm. That's just the rice. It has the germ, it has the bran. It has those things on it which make it good. So your palate has to get used to it, which is going to be a brain experience because you have to move from a place of this white rice. Maybe you eat brown rice. Now you get to this black rice that's just a little bit more firm. So at Field Trip, we do a pineapple black fried rice with salmon and peri-peri sauce. It's delicious. Today, I'm going to talk about how to cook the black rice. So I think we've all grown up in a household where we have somebody who cooks amazing rice, or you get that mushy or that undercooked rice. I grew up in that household. We won't get into that. But the real way to cook rice is right here. You put the rice down in a big enough pot, right? This pot is wide enough here that the rice can grow. Rice doubles in size, not like the grain multiplies. It just grows. So you need to make sure your pot is wide enough for the rice to grow. And then what I do is a grandma trick. It's just a grandma trick. I put my middle finger in the middle of the pot to the bottom of the pot, and I pour the water or any substance in the rice till it gets to my first knuckle. My first knuckle is right here. And I know I have enough water. And then I just throw it on low to medium heat and let the rice cook. And the key is you don't need to put a top on it. I don't want you stirring the rice. I don't want you shaking the pan. Let the rice go. The key to know that you made really good rice is that it sticks to the bottom of the pan and you might get that nice crunchy rice. And the Dominican culture is con. Every culture has the bottom of the pot of rice that's crispy that people fight over. And I know you don't want to scrub your pan or scrape it. It's okay. One night a week that you do this when you're cooking rice, it's all right. You can let it soak and the rice kernels will come off. While that's cooking, I wanted to get ingredients today that in the Harlem community is right in our grocery store. These are ingredients that we see in the grocery store that are easy to get. Jicama, oranges, avocado, a little bit of lime or lemon, cashews, rice wine vinegar. I like spice. I'm a spicy guy. Some cayenne, and then some olive oil, right? All ingredients that we can get, all that I believe are affordable, that when making this dish, when you're thinking about protein or you're thinking about fat, you don't need to worry about steak or lamb or any of those natures. So the fat in this is the avocado, right? The protein in this is the rice, right? I'm giving you all those ingredients to be a little bit more, I don't want to call it healthier, but food conscious, right? This is the food of the future. This is how we should look at food. So here we go. So the rice is on. I get a mixing bowl here. We're going to start with our oranges. I love oranges and black rice, and worked. So, and remember, guys, throw your comments, throw your questions in the comment box. I'm here at the end to answer them, so don't be scared to ask a question. So we're going to just do some orange supremes here. Going to take off the orange skin right here. My kids love oranges, something that goes in my daughter's lunch box for camp, or for camp, not for school, but for camp. But something that she eats all the time. And then we're going to just take the supremes here. We're going to make supremes. Supremes are the section of the orange right here that you just run your knife through, and you get these nice, beautiful supremes just like that. Now, if you can't do that, all good. You can just take the orange and slice them into rings like this. Right? And then come across and then cut them in quarters. That works as well if you can't do the fancy supreme like me, but I want you all to try it. And then we're going to squeeze out that juice. So no food waste here at all, right? We're using the fresh orange juice. We're using the orange in there. And that's how we're going to start. Then we're going to go to the jicama. Jicama is this mixture of like, in texture like a potato, but in the fruit family, right? So it's a little starchy, cuts and feels like a potato. And we're going to peel this off. And I love jicama. Jicama with acid, salt is really, really good. It has great water substance, nice and clean, like clean as in cleaning your palate. You know, everything I'm saying to you guys, I'm thinking about how my brain reacts, that the way I'm expressing food to you all is the way my brain talks to me about food, which is so interesting. I never thought about it like that till I started cooking with you all here today. It's kind of like the way my brain reacts to food, right? Every chef, every person brain reacts to food differently, which means when you're cooking, nothing is right or wrong. It's your expression, which is really great. So we're going to peel back this jicama. You can smell that perfuminess in the jicama. Then we're going to just dice this. Some really nice small dices here that we're going to add right to our bowl here with the oranges. And this is going to be good. So don't worry. They're recording this video. If I'm moving a little fast, you can cook along with me later. Play by play, you can pause it. If you're cooking with me now, all good. I'll try to slow it down a little bit, but you'll be able to do it. Trust me. So you have the black rice on medium to low heat. We got our orange segment and our orange juice in the bowl. We're dicing up our jicama and some small dices here. And this is going to add a little bit of freshness to the dish. So I believe carbohydrates, right? We're going to add that right in. So the beauty of this is, we're basically making kind of like this salad to go on top of our black rice or mix into our black rice. In the recipe, it calls for a lime. I'm using a lemon, so you can use a lemon or a lime, which is beautiful. And we're just going to squeeze that in there. That's going to brighten up the jicama really nice. And I'll show you all what I have in my bowl right now, right there. So we got the jicama, we got the oranges. We're going to add a little bit of the rice wine vinegar. So if you're thinking, oh, JJ, you're doing basically like a pickle or escabeche, that's what's going on here. Or making a dressing. We're doing that, right? We're letting all the vegetables soak, the fruit soak in here. We're gonna add a little bit of cayenne for spice. Oh yeah, we gotta spice it up. It's Harlem, baby. We're spicy, right? And then we have our avocado. So, and just a tip on cutting avocado is I put my knife right into the avocado. I don't move the knife. I move the avocado. It gives it to me in half. If you want to take out the pit, you knock your knife into it, kind of rock it both ways. And then I cut the avocado then in half again. And then I peel it. And then we're just going to cut these into quarters. We're going to throw these right into our jicama orange mix. So we got our avocado, we have our oranges, we have our jicama. It's smelling delicious. We have our black rice on the stove. Now, I know somebody's question is, JJ, why didn't you put salt in the black rice? When you're making rice, you add salt at the end. Because when you put salt in the rice, when it first starts cooking, it makes it tighten up. And it doesn't open up. And it makes the rice cook longer. That's why your rice, you're like, rice taking too long. I need to get parboiled rice. No. Good rice like this will take 25 to 30 minutes, just like the parboiled rice you're buying in the store that they're telling you is 20 minutes. Just don't put any salt in the rice to the end. So, little quick science trick. I'm a scientist, food scientist now. I can drop the knowledge. Melissa said I could. She just texted me. So we're going to put the avocado right into the bowl here. Oh, this is good, everybody. This is going to be like, this should be your new thing. Look at that. Mix it up. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil here. Just a little bit of fat. Get that going. Some salt. Let's see what this tastes like. Let me show you what it looks like. Let me get a little close here so you can see. Look at that. Look at that avocado jicama mix with the oranges. Now, if you're an orange fan, you can add more orange to it. If you like more jicama, you can add more jicama. Let me see what this tastes like. That's good. I want a little bit more orange juice. So I'm going to cut this orange. Squeeze this orange in here. Oh, that has some good spice to it. The cayenne pepper sneaking up on me. In my hands. So we got the mix there. And what I did before this class started was I started to cook my rice ahead of time because I knew I wouldn't have enough time to just let the rice cook. So I have my beautiful black rice here, and I want to show everybody what it looks like. My beautiful black rice here. Look at that. Beautiful black rice. I'm going to add some salt to it right now. Right? And when you season it, when the rice is nice and warm or hot, it absorbs all of that amazing flavor, right? So that's the key, right? Got to put the salt in when it's hot, or any spices. You can put turmeric in here. You can do a lot of different things. I'm just giving you the foundation. So we have the rice there. Now let's plate it up. You get a little bowl. Right here. So we're going to put some rice down at the bottom of our bowl. We're going to take our avocado jicama, put that right on top with the orange, the cayenne. Come on, avocado toast don't got nothing on this, Lisa. Some cashews. And there you go, brain food, everybody. There we go. The food of the future. Let's see what it tastes like. This is the food of the future. You got the black rice, the avocado, the orange, the cashew, the jicama. That's delicious. And not because I made it. It's clean, it's fresh, it has a little bit of spice and acid. So you can sit in front of your couch, watch Netflix, your favorite show on your TV or with some friends, and get some delicious brain food. And you'll feel smarter tomorrow. What do you think, Melissa and Lisa? You want some? You want me to send some up the block to you?
This looks
to Riverside
so
Church?
good.
I'm so hungry now.
How are we doing? So you think we're good with that cooking demo? I mean, I learned a lot, and I know I'm very hungry now. So we could go into our Q&A. Sound good?
Works for me.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we did have 2 questions from our audience, and I wanted to read because you had a friend in the audience, it seems. Lee Kawarski, I might be pronouncing that incorrectly, excuse me. This person says, Chef, thank you for all of your, all caps, amazing work at Field Trip, especially throughout the past 17 months, #RiceIsCulture. I know that your late friend Josh Ozerski would be so thrilled to see your impact. And the question that we have is for both Chef Johnson and Melissa. What are your thoughts on the crossover of science education and culinary education? And then what role do or should scientists play in the curriculum at culinary schools? So we'll start off there.
You want me to go first, Melissa, or you want to go?
You go first.
So just to set the table on Josh Ozerski, when I was a chef at the Cecil, Josh Ozerski was a writer at Esquire magazine and gave the Cecil Best New Restaurant for the food I was cooking, Afro-Asian American cooking, and then he passed away. And I think without that article and that moment that he wrote about me was a very pivotal moment for my career. Because nobody else was writing about the food that I was cooking like he did. He understood it. So rest in peace to Josh. But yeah, I think that food can play a part in a lot of different parts of curriculum, right? Especially with young kids that might be struggling in science class. When food gets involved, it breaks down the barriers because you're like, ooh, that's just rice, or ooh, that's just an avocado, right? And I use food to teach my young kids just adding, like count the eggs. How many apples do you see, right? Because these are things that are part of their life every day. So when I went to Culinary Institute of America, food science and gastronomy was one of the first courses where you learned your taste buds and what the brain did. But that was only for 14 days. And then it stopped. And the rest you just learned on your own or picked up a book. So I think science can be really big into culinary school, not just in molecular gastronomy, but in the way the brain functions around food.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you said about teaching science through food. I think you were saying how it was, you see that science is so important, especially in the past few year and a half, I guess. But I think something, and it's also shown, especially since, well, the vaccine was developed, is how important science literacy and science education is. And I think that food is a really great way of, it's something that we all do. It's something we all engage in. And just if we could show the science that's happening in this thing that we all participate in every day, almost probably 3 times a day at least, that would really be good for everyone. But also, I think, this is a two-way street. I think we have a lot to learn from the food community. I think the types of thing you're talking about, the kind of artistry you put into food is something that I think the best scientists also strive for. And so I just love everything you just said.
Yeah. So I guess food and education and culinary education regarding the brain and all of that. I think this is exactly what we're doing here today, or trying to do at some capacity.
Yeah.
Now we just need the Department of Education to fund us. But
Sign me up. I'm there. Don't forget about me when it all happens.
But yeah, we did actually get another question that kind of is related to the research. And Melissa, I wonder if you could speak to this. The STEM Corner podcast asks, is there research on foods linked to anxiety and depression? Could you speak to kind of the mental health aspects of food?
Yeah, so this is quite complicated, as most things are when you go a little bit deeper. And I think there is like a lot of these other things. The food, I think, in neuroscience has been quite understudied. There's still a lot that we don't know, a lot that we're still figuring out. But there are connections between the brain and, of course, emotion and food. I know that the way that we feel can influence what we eat, and what we eat can influence what we feel. It's not so one-to-one. At least as far as I'm aware, that I could say like, eat this and you'll feel better, or glad you eat this. But there is almost definitely a connection, and a connection in the brain. Actually, one of the centers that is thought to be involved in emotions and also emotional memory, the amygdala. It actually, scientists have shown in mice, and so we don't know if this is the case in humans yet, but working in mice and showing something else in mice is often the starting point for looking at things in humans. Scientists have shown that there are these cells that are in this brain region that's associated with emotions, associated with memory, in emotional memory, that can actually, if you activate them, then you can actually stop eating in an animal, or there are other cells that are also in this region, and if you activate them, they'll start eating. And there's a lot of work that's going on now and just starting around this sort of thing. And I see there was also something about depression. We have connections all over our bodies to our brain, and in our digestive systems, we also have connections to our brain. This is called the vagus nerve. It's all over our digestive system. And this is still a big mystery in science. We have a lot of mysteries. But there is actually some evidence, and even an FDA-approved treatment for depression that involves stimulating this vagus nerve tract in a specific way, and that seems to be effective for some people in depression. How you stimulate this, again, like how this works, we still don't know. A lot of things are still figuring out, but there does seem to very definitely be a connection.
I don't want to open up a can of worms, but I'm thinking immediately of the microbiome, the gut-brain connection.
Yeah.
I think that's something that people want to, like, the gut-brain connection is bigger than we all realize. And a lot of chefs' guts are bad because of the things, how they eat food, right, that then connects to their brain later on in life. So maybe that's a breakout session when you guys when this grows bigger than life.
I'm so excited. We have a few more questions. I thought this one was really interesting, and Chef Johnson, maybe you can answer this. Curious about a plant-based diet. So when you cook a plant-based diet, how do you go about creating kind of multiple proteins or making sure that you get the nutrition that you need?
I think as something that we're all learning about is this terminology, plant-based, right? And the diet. I always say go back and look at the Southern diet, right? The Southern diet is a plant-based diet. Like the food of African Americans in the South is based off legumes, rice, corn, right? A lot of vegetables, a lot of legumes. It's a diet that is perceived to be a bad diet, actually, right? That is built on fried food, and pot liquor, collard green stewed in pork fat, right? That was like one day for people to, I believe, to cheat on the plant-based diet of what they were eating. So I always say go back there. but also look at some freshly milled rice, like Anson Mills and what they do, and Lotus with some of the red rice and black rice that have some great protein B12 in it. But a good source to plant-based, if you have the accessibility, is your farmer's market, right? And if you walk up and down your farmer's market and you talk to the farmers and you see what they have and what's coming in season and how things are moving and what are they growing, will help you really develop an amazing plant-based diet. And that's what I try to tell my friends that are doing plant-based 2 times a week or 3 times a week, that get so stuck in their one supermarket that has the same things all the time. There's a farmer's market close by you. It also helps the community, the agriculture community, but the farmer will educate you on what is the best thing to eat right now because they are growing it.
Yeah, and I would just like to say that one of our partners, Harlem Grown, is a great example of this, and they provide a lot of fresh produce. They do a free farmers market, I believe, every Saturday. I don't want to commit to that because I don't remember if it's every Saturday.
Don't worry, you committed Tony to it now if it's not true.
So just that plug. And I also love what you said about Southern food. I think this is something that's come out of a lot of traditions that are, I think we haven't been eating that much meat for that long. And so Chinese food, which is in Taiwanese food, is actually a great way of eating plant-based as well.
Listen, a lot of cultural food is, if you really dive deep into the menu, is a lot of plant, like, right, vegetable broth and noodles and vegetables. A lot of it, I think, the perception, and that's a whole different thing, the perception of what the culture is eating or what was eating is something different than what we know these cultures to be. I mean, I stopped in Taiwan for one day before going into Singapore, and I just remember the amazing food in the airport. Like the dumplings just in the airport, all the vegetable dumplings, all these amazing. So, look, a lot of plant-based is in the culture.
Yeah, and also the recipe. Also the recipe you presented today is plant-based, right? And it is great. You have all these vitamins and minerals and macronutrients. So,
thank you for answering that question. I'm so excited. Maybe I'll become a vegetarian after this. But so this is an interesting, or it brings up an interesting concept, I think, of kind of like Chef Johnson, you mentioned accessibility, and I was just thinking about food and science and society. And I think one of the, biggest questions we have is kind of about climate change and how that could affect our food sources. So do you guys have kind of any thoughts on climate friendly food, or like what maybe the future of food science as it relates to the culinary world looks like? I know that's a big question.
Shoot.
I'll just jump in.
Go ahead, Melissa.
I can't answer the big question, but I'll say something, which is that actually a lot of people have kind of a gripe against GMOs, genetically modified organisms in food, but actually I think this is a way science can make solutions. And as there is no evidence, as far as we are aware, that GMOs are inherently bad for you, and finding ways using biology to answer these questions is I think actually one way in which this could be a really positive impact for the world.
And we see science playing a major role, right? Plant-based food beyond impossible, right?
Yeah.
Lab meat.
Yeah.
People call it, right? I think the future is a vertical farming, right? Similar to what Harlem Grown is doing, right? This hydroponic vertical farm that is up so big. But, I'm thinking, like, what is New York in 10 years? Will these big buildings become vertical farms, right? And just so everybody knows, vertical farms are a place where you would grow your lettuce, controlled lighting, controlled water. It would be grown perfect, right? No bugs, nothing of those sort things are happening, controlling the soil. It's happening all around the country. Detroit's a big place for vertical farming, and a lot of abandoned buildings people are buying and doing vertical farming. So I don't think, for me, I'm still learning about food that impacts the environment. We hear cows, right, impact the environment. We hear rice impacts the environment. I think it's the way we produce rice impacts the environment. I think it's the way what we do to cows, right? Like, I think farming needs to go back in time, actually, right? Things need to take a little bit longer to produce to help the climate. And I think if that's one thing that we saw from a positive from the pandemic, when we were at home sitting down, the sky was bluer, the grass was greener. Think about India. You can see the Himalaya mountains now. There's things that were happening around the world because we as people, how we grow food or what we're doing to the climate is hurting the climate. It's obvious. And we have to do something. I don't know what exactly it is, but we have to do something for the future.
Yeah. Well, these are all really important questions and really great insights. Thank you, Chef Johnson and Melissa. I want to end the conversation, as we are reaching our hour, on kind of a more lighthearted and maybe cheeky question. What is the best restaurant? And this is not just me. In Harlem, you think? Feel free to say one or multiple. There might be a right answer. We'll see.
Don't worry, Melissa. I'm not going to hold you to anything. Don't worry.
Well, of course, it's Field Trip.
I think Harlem is this robust community, right? And I think when we look at Harlem, it has these amazing pockets that are for all communities, right? You can walk up and down 116th Street and get the best West African food, Senegalese, East African food. You can go up to 148th Street or 138th Street and Broadway also and get amazing Mexican food, right? You can go to East Harlem and get amazing Puerto Rican food or even Mexican food, where I think is some of the best Mexican food in New York City. I think for me, and this is just how I look at Field Trip for the future, is that the reason why I consider us I consider us a disruptor in the market space, right? Mm-hmm. When people are opening up restaurants, fast food restaurants inside of places that look like Harlem, they are Popeyes, McDonald's, Burger Kings, right? Wingstops. I'm there to disrupt that, to be able to give people something better to choose. And I hope that it's delicious and affordable, not as much as those places, but I try to get close because good food costs money. Yeah. But Harlem has an amazing food scene. You can really get anything and everything here. I would love to know what Melissa likes to eat besides Field Trip. You don't have to be biased to that at all. So you might not even like Field Trip. That might happen. So.
I do really love the chicken bowl at Field Trip. But I similar to what you're saying, I actually eat a lot of Asian food in Harlem. So La Salle Dumpling House is one of my go-tos.
With Sal Dumpling House?
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, Jin ramen. Probably my favorite ramen in the city, even now. And I order a lot of Indian food sometimes. Maharaja Palace is my go-to. I eat a lot of different Asian foods in Harlem. So
I think the best Vietnamese food is in Harlem. So yeah.
Where?
Yeah, but unfortunately, we have to end our time.
Where's the Vietnamese restaurant? What are you talking about?
It's Saiget.
Yes, it is. It's amazing. Yes.
I love Saiget. I didn't know if I got it. Yeah. Saiget. I eat Saiget probably once a week now that it's back.
Me too. I eat it once a week too.
Okay, we'll see you guys there after this live stream. I am so hungry now, and also full of thoughts. So I just want to thank both of you guys, Chef Johnson, Melissa, the Field Trip team, the Center for Science and Society, Harlem Grow, Mandela Cafe, Riverside Church, and last but not least, our audience at home. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed Brain Food.